This is an I Am Listening exclusive podcast.
I'm Numi Gildert.
I'm Harriet Taylor.
And you're listening to Tech Girl Energy, the weekly debrief.
Our picks of this week's tech headlines.
And what we think of them.
We're aiming for 50% informative, 50% fun.
Let's dive in. You're listening to Tech Girl Energy, the weekly debrief. I'm Numi Gildert. I have a PhD in robotics.
I'm Harriet Taylor. I've got 7 years industry experience in software engineering.
And this is episode 2. Hello.
Hey.
How you doing, Harriet?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to dive in.
Same. I think we've got some really interesting topics to talk about today.
And I think the first thing that we have to talk about straight away, the big news in tech this week, is obviously the Apple event.
I know. I feel like I can't get away from people that have been talking about it. Obviously, working in the app industry, it's quite a big event every year.
I guess it's not quite Christmas because, there's a lot of Android users as well. But is it like a similar thing where you're like, right, okay, we got to take notes to see what we need to update?
Well, it's really interesting because obviously Apple own the iOS ecosystem and they make the only devices that sort of use that ecosystem. Whereas on Android, you've got a lot of different players. You've got the Googles, you've got the Samsungs, the Huaweis. So when the Apple event comes around, you do kind of take notice. But there is a bit of friendly competition, I'd say, with the Android and iOS world. Because sometimes it feels like iOS is playing catch up to Android.
Yeah.
Especially with like some of the features they come out with. Sometimes it's the opposite way around. Like I think they've only just announced AI for iPhone, pretty much.
But Google AI launched a couple months ago, right?
So it's interesting to see where everything's heading, who's sort of copying who's had the best idea first, who's ditching what types of approaches. I don't know. I find it really interesting. Obviously, I have to pretend I hate Apple because I'm an Android developer. But no, I always love to see like forward-thinking tech and like where we might be headed in future.
Yeah, so it looked like one of the big announcements this week for iOS 18 is Apple Intelligence. It looks like there's really cool features. It's this inbuilt AI from Apple. It's done locally on your phone for data protection. It looks like a really cool way that they're implementing this kind of technology into iPhones. There's a couple of things that we've seen other people do, like Android platforms as well. So there's the image playground that they're introducing, which is generative imaging, removing people from photos that we've seen on Google phones for quite a while. Yeah. One thing that I'm very excited about, though, as an Apple user, is Genmoji.
Can you explain this more to me then? Because obviously I'm not an Apple device user. I have a MacBook. That's about it. What is this going to mean?
So you know how like the emoji library is pretty extensive. You know, most of the time, whatever you want, there is an emoji there. But sometimes you can struggle. You're looking for a lime and there's not a lime emoji. Or I was trying to look for like a cup of tea the other day, and there's like green tea or coffee. There's limited.
There's no tea, no British tea.
No, there's a teapot, which I think is what they're expecting you to use. Or you could use the coffee cup and it'd be like, just is it coffee? Is it tea? You decide. But Genmoji is going to be using the Apple Intelligence to let you generate your own emoji. So you can type in a prompt and it will make an emoji for you. So I think there's going to be like, you can remix things. So an example that they used on the announcement is a rainbow cactus. So it creates a rainbow coloured cactus for you. But then I think there's this idea as well that it will create completely new emojis for you with a prompt.
So you can just create whatever emoji you want, basically.
Yeah, I think so. So I think maybe you could be like one eye winking, one eye star, tongue out emoji, and it'll make it for you.
I don't know if you've messed around with like any of the AI image generators online. To be fair, even Canva has stuff that you can use at the moment. It is actually really interesting. So what I'd be interested to know is, can you save these emojis down for future use?
Yes.
Or would it be a one-time thing?
Yes, and then your favourites, like, will it be stored in your favourites?
Yeah. How does that work?
Because the classic thing is, you know, I remember when they did an emoji update maybe a year or two ago, and they introduced like the pink plain heart, because before there was only like the sparkle heart if you wanted a pink heart. So I think there's some things where people just want a little bit of customization, and then they would use that regularly. But then I think there's a lot of room for fun, for specific.
100%. I think I am such a basic person using emojis. Like, I have my quick list. I'm that person that likes typing in the emoji I'm after, and if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, I'm going for one of my usual ones. So I'd be interested to see how many people use this on iOS. Is it just going to be like a gimmick for like a few months? Are people actively going to start using it for different things?
Yeah, because do you remember Animoji? When they used...
I remember Bitmoji.
When they first started doing Face ID stuff, so I think they launched it with the iPhone X, you could record a message as an emoji, and it would track your face movement using the Face ID technology. So you could record a message as a lion or as a unicorn, and it would move your head. And it would move. No, it was hilarious. It was so good.
Who came up with this?
Just someone that was like, I know. And it was hilarious, but it was so flash in the pan. Like, it was so short-lived. It felt like a bit of a gimmick. Like, I remember when I got the iPhone X, I used it because I was like, oh, hilarious, look, I'm a unicorn. But then, like, never used it again. So it'd be interesting if this is a similar thing. Like, will people start using it? Also, how is it integrated? Do you have to purposefully select Genmoji? Or, like, when you use it and you type in an emoji, will it suggest existing ones? Or will it then say, here's one that I generated?
Yeah. And where is the computing power coming for this, right? Because obviously, putting in prompt, this is all going to have to get processed somewhere to churn out those emojis. Like, is this happening on an Apple server somewhere? Like...
So I think it is on the phone. I've seen stuff that they've talked about how it is local for data concerns and everything. So they've created a new chip for this generation, the A18 chip. And this also means that I think that some of these updates that are coming in iOS 18 aren't going to be available for iPhones older than the 15, just because of this processing demand.
So they are cycling you out of the market.
Yeah, I know. I've got a 13 Pro. I'm going to have to buy a new one.
Damn. It's interesting to see how, I think in the last sort of 2 weeks, there's been so many new phone announcements.
Yeah.
We've had the Huawei announce their triple folding phone.
Yeah, I need to have a look at a picture of this, because when you say triple fold in my head, I can't even imagine where the third fold is.
I mean, to be fair, I'm still getting my head around single folding phone.
Yeah.
So it's more like when you open a newspaper, in a sense, or, you know, one of those like pamphlets.
Yeah.
All the different folds. It's like that. It's really interesting though, because obviously that's going to make it wider than a singular folding device at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's turning it more into like a tablet size rather than just a larger phone. From an app development point of view, that's going to be really interesting to see what we display.
Yes.
And I don't know, I'm just interested to see if people actually want this. I've been seeing and reading tons of information about saying this is where the industry's heading. I'd love to see the data behind it about why people might want foldable devices. I think foldable devices will take off when they manage to get them thinner.
Yeah.
A lot of the foldable devices I've seen now are pretty clunky once they are folded down. Yeah,
like the Galaxy Fold, it feels like a flip phone in that kind of chunkiness. The images of the Huawei, it looks thin, but then I guess when you fold it up, is it then thicker than a normal phone?
Yes, I was just looking then, and this one looks like it could be quite thin. But just from a UK point of view, though, we actually can't use Huawei devices over here at the moment because of security concerns. So they're not allowed on the Play Store over here. So even though it's been announced, we can't really use them.
Yeah.
But Google have announced their first flagship flip phone as well.
Yeah.
So considering Apple, I thought maybe it would be time for them to announce it. Is this going to be something that might come in the next iPhone? Like, it'd be interesting to see if Apple decide to follow that trend eventually.
Yeah, I think Apple's really interesting because so much of their brand is on this cohesive design. You know, they've really only evolved that same silhouette over the iPhone's life cycle. You know, it's basically just gotten a bit more rectangular and thinner from that first iPhone. So to do something like a flip or a fold will be a huge design change. So it will be really interesting to see if they make that choice and what that will look like for an Apple product.
Yeah, well, I saw one of the newer Pixel phones yesterday, and I'd not seen one in a while, and I immediately said, oh, is this an iPhone? Because it looked so similar to an iPhone. Then I looked at the back and it had like the Pixel's multi-camera feature that it has, and I was like, okay, this isn't an iPhone. But it's interesting to see how they all sort of borrow from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's cool because like the best technology is collaborative, right? Why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, and we can all learn from each other.
100%.
Would you get a fold phone?
I have used some at work. I have quite a large phone at the moment, so I've got a Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, and it is a pretty big phone, and I didn't realise at the time how big it was because I ordered it online. It's got great cameras, but it doesn't really fit anywhere, and also it's quite thick when I've got a case on it. It's just big. I think I am tempted to migrate to a smaller device. I would get a flip phone if the flip phone was thinner than they are now, because that's just going to stick out in a small bag. It's going to stick out in a pocket. They're just not very convenient.
Yeah.
That's my review of them. But for watching things on your phone, for drawing, for doodling and stuff like that, they're great.
Yeah, I think they will probably find a place for people that want that flexibility. So they don't want to have a phone and a tablet. They want to be able to transition from one to the other. So it could be that it becomes, really popular in education. There's a big movement in education of bring your own device to school or university, rather than, the school providing devices for you. So if you had something that could be a phone and also then a tablet, that's multifunctional.
100%. And I think that'll be really great. It is interesting to think in the context of, are people starting to try and use their phone less? Like, where are we going with everything? Are phone and laptops going to merge into one at some point?
Yeah, I mean, there's this big discussion at the moment, isn't there, of millennials talking about laptop tasks versus phone tasks. Have you seen this? Where it's like,
I've seen that.
I can't make a big purchase on my phone. We literally did it this week. Me and my housemates and my friend have booked a holiday, and we did it on a laptop because it was like, it feels wrong to do this on a mobile phone.
If you're gathering data, because I've noticed myself do this, I've got better at booking holidays and flights on phones and stuff like that. But when you've got a wider screen, I feel like you can have different things going on at once. I am one of those people that will have a million tabs open.
Yeah.
And I like to compare. And if the site doesn't make it easy to compare on your phone, I'm going to go on my laptop and have different tabs open, so I can just have a quick scan in between to see what's going on. I feel like it's harder to do that on your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Which might be why people use the laptop for bigger purchases, because you want to make an informed choice, and it's harder to do that when you've got less visual sort of data helping you do that.
Yeah. So maybe a triple fold phone will help us do that.
Yeah.
We can have a tab on each fold.
Literally, I was just thinking that in my head. But they are interesting. I think it is a trend, and I think the industry is moving in that direction. Watch the space. I think you're going to see one from Apple in the next few years, and I think they're going to start becoming thinner and thinner.
Harriet has said this on the podcast. It's time-stamped. It's recorded. When it comes true, Apple, our lawyers will be in touch.
I asked one of my friends who's a big Apple fanboy the other day what he thought about foldables, and he wasn't a fan, but he always buys Apple products. And then I said, right, well, if Apple released a foldable one, would you get it? And he was like, yeah, probably. I was like, what?
Make it make sense. Yeah, exciting. I'm really looking forward to see how it continues. Okay, let's move on from phones. I saw this, obviously my background is in robotics, so anytime I see a robot story, I'm immediately intrigued. There has been some new research published about nanobots being able to be injected into the human body for treating aneurysms. So it was done by University of Edinburgh School of Engineering, a team in the UK and a team in China. And they're magnetic nanobots that have blood-clotting drugs in them in a casing that can melt. And basically, the idea is that you can inject several hundred billion of these into the body. They're about the 20th of the size of a red blood cell, so they are teeny tiny. You can put them in an artery, and then you can use magnets to guide them to the site where you need to deliver the drug. So if you imagine, like we used to have in school, the iron filings on a paper and a magnet, being able to do that in the brain using medical imaging as well, so you can find the precise location where you want to administer this blood clotting drug, and then they heat the robots to the coating's melting point. Obviously, this is a safe temperature for humans, and then they can release that drug at that precise point. So you're not having to wait for traditional drug delivery, through a tablet or intravenously, waiting for that drug to get to the location. You are delivering, like hand delivering it with these robots to where it's needed to clot that bleed on the brain.
This is insane, honestly. Like, you just explaining that, I feel like, when people sometimes just like sit and like wonder with their imagination, like, oh, I wonder if this would be possible. Oh, I wonder if we could do this. It sounds like someone sat down, had this random idea, like, oh, I wonder if we could just swarm something and heal it with robots. And they've gone and done it.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane the fact that people can actually put this sort of technology into practice now. And we're at a point where it's actively being used. Like, it blows my mind every time I read things like this, and I love it.
Yeah. And I think, it's actually quite a simple concept if you think about it. Like, we're not saying a nanobot that's got, that's doing surgery and has tiny little arms and legs as it swims through your body or anything like that. Like, it's basically a drug with a magnet attached to it that you can give, to, it's like playing Operation, really. You can directly put it.
It's going to help so many people as well, especially like when you consider sometimes people have treatment and then they end up having the whole body treated for something you only want in one place.
Yeah. And
it can affect other parts of your body.
Yeah. So, this research and development into targeted medicine and treatment and drug delivery is huge. We're things like aneurysms or the reverse blood clots, breaking down blood clots, being able to do it at that specific site. Obviously, cancer treating drugs as well. There's so many side effects for chemotherapy. If you can,
radiotherapy.
If you can target that to a specific area, then the advantages of that are huge.
It's crazy. It reminds me of, right, hear me out. I used to watch this show on TV called The Magic School Bus.
Yes, the Magic School Bus. She had a lizard, right?
Yeah, yes. But in one of the episodes, they shrank everyone down and they went on like a little journey throughout like a body. And it just makes me think of that, like, just like little things in someone's body, going in there, figuring things out, helping them out. Like, it's just really, really cool to like know that if you think 100 years ago, you'd have told someone this is what we'd be doing now, I think they'd have laughed in your face. I love it when we come out with all these like outlandish like ways to do things and they work.
Yeah. So obviously this is research at a university, so it's not, in wide medical practice yet, but the fact that this step has been made, aneurysms cause about 500,000 deaths globally each year. So, the impact this research could have is really high. So that's exciting.
It is. I've been smiling the whole time you've been explaining this one. It's cool.
We love science to save people.
What was it? Less memes, more medical diagnosis.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. It's a theme. We've done it 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I love this.
Well, I think we've ended on quite a nice little positive story there.
Honestly, I thought they were quite entertaining, all of them. It was great.
So that's it for this week. You've been listening to Tech Girl Energy, the weekly debrief.
Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Tech Girl Energy.
And we'll see you next week.
This has been an I Am Listening exclusive podcast. For more information, head over to our website, im-listening.co.uk.